Welcome to the Celiac Diva!
For today's episode, I'm wearing gluten-free Afterglow Cosmetics. Check out the link below for more information. Now, on to the episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Celiac Diva. I'm your hostess, Lauren Lucille, and today I have with me a fantastic guest, Kirstin from our GF family. Hi, Kirstin.
Hi.
Kirstin, we're here in Bryant Park in NYC. It's gorgeous today, and the sun is shining. So what we're going to be talking about today is this is a very special vlog for those of you who are moms of kids who eat gluten-free. Now, Kirstin, how many kids do you have? Tell them how many kids you have.
I have 2 kids.
And how old are they?
My son is 5 years old, and my daughter is 9 years old.
And when did they start showing symptoms of celiac disease or having issues with gluten?
Really, it was at 12 months that I started to notice them, having problems. My son, the first time he ate Cheerios, he vomited all over and got a diaper rash, and he had diarrhea all the time, and he went from the 95th percentile of weight to the 5th percentile of weight, and he was constantly sick with ear infections, flu, cold, and something was definitely not right.
Well, what made you decide to get them tested for celiac disease? Did you take them to a GI, or what was your next step?
Well, he wasn't speaking at the time, and he was really profoundly sick, but I felt like he had diarrhea for 6 months. That him not speaking was driven by the fact that he had diarrhea for 6 months. So I took him to a GI doctor who figured out he had gone from this. He had really lost all this weight, and she did a genetic test. She did the Prometheus celiac test because she suspected celiac disease.
For those who, I have also done the Prometheus my celiac ID test. Tell them what that is.
So my kids have both genes for celiac, and it tells you if you have the genetic possibility of having celiac, as well as if you do the screening, it also gives you the antibody levels. For kids, a lot of times the antibodies go in and out, and they're not, so it's harder to tell with the antibodies levels. And some kids, they test negative for celiac 4 times, and the 5th time then they're in the ER and they test positive for it. So it's really good to do the genetic screening too as well to make sure to see if it's a possibility.
If you had to do it over again, or if you had a mom out there who was curious whether their kid has celiac or not, would you recommend to them doing the My Celiac ID genetic test?
I definitely would recommend doing the My Celiac ID genetic test. It's best if you do it through a doctor, I think. You can do it yourself, but I think it's good to have all the screening done at once. Right. But just get that information so you know whether you're dealing with celiac or dealing with gluten intolerance, which can be just as serious, right, in some ways, sometimes as celiac, but you want to know it's a different game, so find out.
And you tested positive for the genes too?
I have one of the genes, my husband has one of the genes, and my kids each have 2 genes, which means they're 14 times more likely to develop celiac than the average person.
Okay, how did they react to going gluten-free?
My son was 18 months old. He didn't
have a choice.
He didn't have a choice. He didn't know any different, and he's very well versed in gluten-free. My daughter was 5, and I said to her, "We want you to be the best you can be, that you can be, yeah. And it's going to be hard, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to make it easier. I'm going to find all the foods that you like and make all the foods that you like, and it'll get easier." And we also went gluten-free with them. All 4 of us, and it turns out I have the same, the same thing my kids have, and so we all benefited from it.
And what advice do you have for mothers who have little ones, whether it's babies or 5-year-olds especially, who are like, I do not want to go gluten-free? What advice do you have for them?
I really recommend either the whole family or the parents or one parent also go gluten-free with the child, because I think then they don't feel so alone in this. Right. It's a very hard diet to stick with if everyone else is eating gluten, but if you have the support of your family, at least in our house, my kids don't feel like they can't have this, they can't have that within the house. They have to deal with that all the time out in the world, but if they don't have to deal with that in the house, it just makes it a lot easier for them to have to, do it outside.
What do you wish that you would have known when you started going gluten-free?
Well, the major thing I wish I had known is that you need a multivitamin with minerals when you're on any restricted diet, whether it's a gluten-free diet, a dairy-free diet, or a vegan diet, a vegetarian diet. Some of these restricted diets you don't get. It's hard to believe, and it took me a long time to really understand it. But you need these multivitamins with minerals, and you need to check absorption levels of vitamins and minerals.
And how did you get your absorption levels or your kids' absorption levels tested?
Well, we started with an alternative doctor who did some testing, and the alternative test showed low B12 levels.
Like a dietitian or a
It was actually an environmental doctor, Dr. Teach.
Okay.
in New York City, but he didn't. It showed low B12 levels, and he didn't really. He just said, "Well, that will go away."
Your son, right?
My son. I showed it to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist, and she saw it and she said, "B12, that's serious. Go to the pediatrician, get a blood level for B12, and then go get him some B12," which I bought at the vitamin shop, which is probably not the way you want to go about it, but that's where we were, and he actually started speaking after he got B12, and his levels were low. They were 274, which was his level. So the low vitamins and minerals really can, and damage from low vitamins and minerals can be irreversible. In pediatrics, it's range of neurological disorders in patients with celiac disease, and it talks about, you're more likely to have hypotonia, for hypotonia, which is low muscle tone, which is what my daughter had. 21% of people with celiac have it versus 3% of the regular population. Wow. And it also developmental delays, epilepsy, and learning disabilities and ADHD are much more. When you don't absorb these nutrients, then your brain can't work. Right. And people don't really, we think of them as like the gut and the brain is separate, but they're really very connected. So sometimes and headaches are the biggest thing. So,
Were you so excited to find out that their symptoms were something that could be helped with their diet? Or did it scare you?
I was thrilled to have an answer because I had wondered, why is she sleeping all the time? Like, why are they so sleepy and lethargic? And she had mouth sores. She had she called them cold cuts. She had she called them cold cuts. They were like cold sores, and that's a sign of nutrient deficiencies. And so it was nice to get some answers finally after wondering when you're sick. Now.
Cool. Now you have a blog, Our GF Family, and I'll put a link up to her blog. What do you talk about on your blog?
I talk a lot about health issues, how dietary issues affect development, and just general health issues. And I have a lot of gluten-free recipes. My background, I'm a cook. I went to cooking school and I worked in restaurants.
That's so cool.
So that's my background. So it's sort of how that pertains to health.
Cool. All right, guys, I just thank you so much for talking with us today. To all the moms out there, I just really hope that you were able to soak up a lot of her wisdom and everything that she's learned over the years being a gluten-free mom and a gluten-free family. I'll put her blog up so you can check it out. Please check it out. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. You're amazing.
All right, well, thanks. All right, everybody, have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you later.